Hey everybody, welcome back to more ACC. We're on week 7 of LFM Rookie Sprint Series this week and we're going to get right into it. We're on Imola, we qualified P10, but we're definitely going to have a rough start on this one later in the lap. Decided to hop back in the AMG this week as it can take the curbs of Imola like a fully tricked out Jeep Wrangler. But anyways, as usual, we're trying to be decently cautious at the start. Don't want to cause anything that could throw away the race early, but as we come out of this turn, the Ferrari behind is going to try to sneak between me and the McLaren. It was a little tight, probably a little too risky if you ask me. Makes us have a bit of a moment. In fact, as we look back at it, I just really don't think the space was there. It was definitely dangerous to try that early, but everything came out okay. Everybody's fine. I am going to be checking my rear view a lot, though, with that Ferrari behind. But anyways, we're back in split 1 for this one. And for this week of LFM, it's actually Thanksgiving here in the States, so definitely had a bit of limited time on practice. I qualified with a 142.7, but I really would have preferred to be down in the lower 142s at least and be a bit more consistent with those lap times. Also would have liked to carry them over to the race a bit more. Either way, I'm still pretty happy with the P10 start for this one, and at this point in the race I was looking forward to the battles that it may provide. But as we head down to turns 14 to 15, or the Variante Alta, things are going to shake up a bit for us as that Ferrari behind absolutely sends it over the curb, getting airborne, and that clips us right on the front of the car, sends us into the gravel. An unfortunate start to our race, but let's look at that again here as I try to rejoin the track safely. They just came in so hot and bouncing all over that curb, really not a whole lot they could do after the bouncing started. I'm just glad there wasn't anybody on the next turn that would have been in their barreling path. But anyways, it is what it is, and we have to move forward. Drops us all the way down into P18 for now, though. We're certainly not going to be satisfied with a net loss of 8 positions, though, so we're going to work to get some back. In fact, just on the next lap, that's going to start to begin as we go up towards turn 7. We see the Porsche and McLaren battling ahead of us, and as we go through this turn, the McLaren's going to look to the inside of the Porsche, but there's not going to be a lot of space. It's going to cause contact. We're going to sweep to the outside to avoid losing a little bit of momentum, but gaining a position in the process. And now at this point, all we can do is try to focus on that Porsche ahead and try to close the gap. We're going to get a lot closer by the end of the lap, but we're still not going to have made the pass. So we see a large group of cars in front of us. One of them goes off into the gravel a bit there. In fact, we're going to see them dip right into the pits, giving us another free position there up into P16. That'll round out our first true lap here on the track, though, and as we can see as we cross the line, it's not going to be a great time. We're looking at around 146, over 3 seconds slower than our qualifying time. But it's okay, we are in a race now and we have cars around us. I'm going to be trying not to focus on that too much, honestly just going to be trying to stay as stable as possible. But as we see, we're running over the curbs, that Jeep Wrangler coming in handy again. Maybe losing just a little bit of ground to the cars in front of us, but through the next 2 turns we're actually going to get almost all of that back as we run over more curbs yet again. Right up on the back of the Porsche now. And as we come back to turn 7 once again, we're actually going to have a little bit of a run on the outside here. I'm going to attempt to make the outside pass, but I'm just not really able to carry the momentum. He's going to go back by. Now I will say throughout this race, I did really enjoy some of the moments that I had here with Chasta and the Porsche. Hashtag would race again. For now, we'll follow him through turns 9 and 10. Now as we come up to the fearsome turns 11 and 12, I'm keeping a little bit of an eye on the McLaren behind. There's plenty of space around us, so I feel pretty safe. But up ahead, we're actually going to see that another AMG gets taken out. In fact, I get quite nervous as they rejoin the track there. I go a little bit to the left to try to avoid. Not going to get any warning for track limits, but a little bit off there. And that's going to take us back up to the Variante Alta, where we're going to get a really good run on this Porsche coming out. They're going to get a little bit caught up on the exit curve, a little bit bumpy, and that's going to put us alongside. And it's going to be pretty stressful here for a minute. We're going to go side by side, a drag race down to the final turns of the lap. I'm not going to back down though, because it's going to give us the inside, and in fact they are going to go ahead and back off and give us the position. I was definitely happy about that one, as I felt like pretty good respect was being shown between the two of us. In fact, let's take another look at it from the aerial view. We can see me getting pretty close to the rear of their car as we come through that chicane, and definitely just getting up underneath. Have to be careful on the exit of that one. It will give you track limits penalties. But anyways, we're coming down again side by side, and other than the trees blocking, I think it looks pretty cool from this view. Going down towards the final turns, they did actually eke ahead a little bit there, but we had the inside line, so it just would have been really hard for them to come back. But that's going to put us up into P14, and we're going to be here for a little bit. But after about 4 minutes or so, we're going to see the return of our friend from earlier dive bombing through the curves in that red Ferrari there. They're going to rejoin pretty aggressively after going into the gravel. Luckily, the black Ferrari ahead was able to avoid. Makes us go pretty wide into turn 7, and unfortunately lose a little bit of momentum, which is going to open the door for Chasta and the Porsche to look on our left side. They're definitely going to get alongside as we go up into turn 9. I'm going to have to take a wide line, try to hold it as steady as possible as they stay on the inside. With them being cautious as well though, that actually slows them down a little bit, and for both of our safety they decide to back off through turns 11 and 12. So we keep P14 for now, but I'm getting a bit nervous because we're going to have to deal with this Ferrari ahead of us. I've noticed they've been quite erratic throughout the whole race, so I'm wondering in my head what a pass is going to look like. We still have a little bit of a gap to close for now though, so I don't have to worry about it just yet. Just happy to see them get through that chicane cleanly this time. Anyways, at this point, our lap times still aren't looking that great. We have been dealing with a little bit of traffic, but our best lap time is still only a low 1:44. Definitely not good enough to crawl up the field quickly. Still hoping that we can improve that a bit. As we come around turn 19 though, we're going to get pretty lucky. The Ferrari head's going to go into the gravel. It's going to slow him down a lot and give us a pretty easy pass on the outside. I definitely want to get as far away from him as I can though, just to avoid any incidents like we saw on the first lap. That will put us back up into P13 though, so only a net loss of 3 now after the incident. So we'll try to run away from the Ferrari behind and catch up to the Ferrari ahead. It will be a lap later though before we start to really get close. About halfway through the race at this point. We're definitely in their toe as we start to come up towards turns 5 and 6. And you'll see me take them pretty cautiously because I wasn't sure if this was going to be a good time to pass. But coming out of the turns, they're going to have a little bit of a moment on the curb slowing them down, and it's going to give us just enough space on the inside going into turn 7. We're going to do everything we can to hold a nice tight line, avoiding the switcheroo from underneath. But it's not really going to matter. They actually have another moment coming out of that turn as well. Looking back at it from another angle, it's a little bit easier to see the curb mess them up a bit there as we take the inside line. I honestly wasn't quite ready to make that pass, but I'll take it. But that'll put us up into P11, and we can see there's a pretty big gap to the car ahead, about 4 seconds or so. But we have 11.5 minutes left. As long as we can hold a pace, we might be able to catch up. It's going to be slow going though, as we're now about 7 minutes left in the race. I actually ended up getting a track cut in that bit there. Luckily just one warning. But as I actually touch the gravel coming out of turn 6, we're going to see that there's a yellow flag ahead. Never wishing anything bad on anyone's race, but I do want positions, though secretly hoping that I get one. And it looks like there is a blue Porsche off to the left, and we are going to get a free position. Looking back at it, it seems they were having a battle with this Honda, but there's going to be an Aston Martin that comes around and just clips their back end, spinning them off. It was a really unfortunate end to their races. I think they were all the way up in like P5. But anyways, that gives us back P10, and we're going to be there for a little while. All the way up until the last lap, in fact. Over the course of that time, we have at least started to drop our laps into the 143s, but now we can see we're still about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds behind the position ahead. And at this point, we only have the 1 lap to go. In fact, I'm noticing at this point I overfueled a bit for this race. I have over 3 laps left of fuel, only 1 lap left to race. So definitely an adjustment I need to keep in mind for the future. But while I ramble about fuel, we did actually close the gap a bit, down to about 1.5 seconds now. I'm starting to wonder at this point if maybe they're dealing with some tire wear or something like that, because that was really fast for that section, or maybe just getting nervous. It does make me think there is a chance that I could catch up to P9 in this final lap, but the gap is holding pretty steady now. Really wishing at this point I had been able to get those times back down into the 142s. If so, I probably would have been right up there with them at this point. All I can do though is just focus on ahead and see how much time I can take off this gap. I do think if I had had more time this week, I probably would have tried this race again, see if I could improve on the result. But due to the holiday, I've got a 20-pound turkey I gotta get in the oven, so I'm happy with middle of the pack. We do manage to shave some more time off that gap. Now it's about 1 second instead. It looks like we had actually slightly closed down the gap to P7 and 8 ahead of them as well, which means I really would have liked to race them up ahead. Makes me feel like maybe we could have seen at least like a top 7 or 6. But alas, the me in another universe may be the only one that knows. For now, we're going to come around the final turn, getting that gap to about 1 second, just under, seeing the nice pretty blue and green smoke ahead of us. And that's going to take us into the end of this race. So starting P10, having an accident knocking us down to P18, and then getting back up to P10. Definitely was quite a race for me, but hoping to do better next week. Not sure how confident I am though, because I don't have very much experience with Alton Park. That'll bring us to the end of this one. Feel free to subscribe, like, hit the bell. We look to be back at it again next week. But until then, we'll see you next time.